Psychological tests. Now, as you are all aware that in the SSB, we have 3 assessors assessing us independently. The psychologist, the interviewing officer, and the group testing officer. In our series of SSB Made Simple, we will try and unfold everything that goes about these tests. Today, let's take the psychological test. Firstly, let's discuss why the psychologist is required. Now, actually, if you really ask me, then the psychologist is only trying to understand what is the underlying traits of your personality, what are the underlying traits of your personality, and how they would manifest in due course, in training, in operations, in execution of tasks. So basically, the psychologist, by a series of 4 tests, tries to ascertain your personality traits which are required in a candidate who is wanting to become an officer. I again want to caution you. At this stage, we are not looking for a perfect officer. We are looking for somebody who has the potential, who is trainable, and therefore who can be converted into a good officer. Our entire process is basically aimed at selecting the trainable candidates. So, please understand that we are very logical and reasonable people. We give due credence to your background, to your schools, to the environment that you come from. We understand the issues that are going on in the society, but we also understand how you have made use of these opportunities that have come your way. So the psychologist tries to ascertain all this by a series of 4 tests. Thematic perception test, TAT, word association test, WAT, situation reaction test, SRT, and self description test, SDT. Now, a psychologist, by means of these tests, is trying to make an image of every candidate. Actually, you can call it personality mapping. So, he is trying to map your personality. He is trying to say what is the underlying feeling when you are put under pressure of time. How does your subconscious react? What are your habits? How does your subconscious think, act? That actually will determine how you would actually under pressure react or act. Therefore, the psychologist goes through these 4 tests wherein you are put in under some pressure, wherein your first reactions can be considered and seen. The minute we can see your first reactions, we can actually map your personality appropriately. The problem with the coaching, and a lot of coaching, and a lot of coaching, is that you start tending to show a personality trait or some traits which actually do not define your personality. And as a result, what is made out by the psychologist through these tests does not give the personality of an authentic person. There are irregularities, there are gaps, there are confusions, ambiguities, and let me assure you, nobody assessing you would like these. He clearly sees through you, and then he makes an assessment whether you are fit enough to be inducted into our team or not. The first in the series of these tests is the thematic perception test. Theme. We actually want to understand that when you get some stimulus by means of a picture which is shown to you for a short time, what theme actually comes up in your mind? The theme actually means the background, the thought process, the underlying current and the direction of your thought process. And the next word is apperception. Basically, the whole thing actually relates to the perception of the candidate. So, his perception, making out a theme out of a stimulus of a picture or a canvas where something is happening, is basically what this TAT is. So interesting. TAT was introduced in 1930s in Harvard, and even after 90 years, it continues to be part of many selection systems across the world. The DIPR, the psychologists, they're using it for Indian Army for over 60 odd years. They have tremendous samples to prove the efficacy of this test. And also, with these samples, the test is in its today's form, and you actually can see through a candidate. Let me first define the test for those who are beginners and who are seeing this for the first time. The test is, you are shown a picture for 30 seconds. In these 30 seconds, you are required to observe. Thereafter, you are given 40 seconds, 4 minutes. Thereafter, you are given 4 minutes to write down a story based on a theme that you have perceived. So, a small story, 4 minutes, 8 to 10 sentences, depending on your writing speed. And then the next picture comes, 30 seconds. You get 4 minutes to write the next one, 30 seconds, 4 minutes to write the next one, 30 seconds. And after 11th picture, you are shown a blank screen, 4 minutes to write the 12th story on the blank screen. Very interesting. The 12th is a reasonably confusing story. We will discuss the reasons. By the time you have reached the 12th story, you have actually run out of your ideas. Therefore, the 12th story becomes a difficult one for most of us. Now, let me quickly get over the story part. What is a story? I mean, if you really understand what a story is, if you have been writing stories, and I'm sure you have been reading stories, whether in the syllabus or outside as fiction. In a story, there are some characters. Then there is a situation or a vision. The characters do some things and the event ends with a conclusion. So basically 4 things: some characters, some situation, some action and a conclusion. Now also understand what is being shown to you in the picture is the present. This is what is happening. This is the stimulus. Something in the past may have led to this, and that may be your story. Something from this may be carried forward to the future. That can be your story. You can connect the past, present and future, and that can be your story. But with all these stories, what is that the psychologists see? Now let us understand, when any person who is writing a story creates a character or two and gives them ideas, but how do those ideas come? Those ideas are actually the creation of our own mind, our own perception, our own knowledge bank, our own experience, emotions, logics, reasonings. Therefore, everything that those characters do, each one of them, actually depicts the ideas of the story writer. Here lies the catch. Herein, the psychologist understands that your creations are your creations. They actually display the way you think, the way you analyze, the way you plan and act, the way you go about doing things. So in thematic a perception test, the psychologist is trying to make out your ideas, which are actually depicted through your characters. Now within the characters, there is generally a main character. And the main character is the first and the foremost that attracts your attention in the picture that has been shown only for 30 seconds. So he is the first one to attract your attention. Most of your actions are to be done by this character, and therefore this character actually displays your qualities. He does something, arrives at some conclusion, and that's the story. The pictures are generally of 2 main types. One is called a reactionary picture, and the second one is called a visionary picture. Now there will be a mix. There will be a good mix of reactionary and visionary pictures out of those 12 that will be shown to you. In fact, 11. In some, there will be a definite action going on. An accident, somebody drowning, somebody running, somebody jumping, a murder, a weapon, some people fighting. Now all that will actually invite a reaction from you. So this is a reactionary picture. In the second one, the idea may not be to show a action, but then these are called visionary pictures. There is just one person in the photograph or the picture, and he's talking. Now you have to imagine or have a vision of what had happened in the past, or what is he doing right now, and what he may do in the future. And that makes you a visionary picture. So a reactionary picture, there will be a mix of reactionary and visionary pictures when you go in for your series of 11 pictures being shown to you in TAT. Now, having understood what a story is, I'll revise once again. Character, generally the main character, a situation or an action or a problem. Actions, certain actions which will involve observation, analysis, planning, execution of action, maybe feedbacks, and then of course a conclusion. So therefore, your picture should actually be depicting the action being done by your main character, and you would be identified with the main character. Your actions will be. Now the problem is that when you practice too much, you get stereotyped. And you, let us say, have practiced a football match. Now, if the picture shows that there is a boy who is standing or there is a man who is standing, you say that sometimes earlier he was seeing a football match. If there is a boy shown, you say there is a boy, good chap, going for a football match, and you write the football match. So actually you are fixated with a football match. Even if there is a girl lying in a pool of blood, you will say, before this, she had gone and seen a football match, and after that she has come, had an accident and died. Now this is what happens when you do too many picture writing. Most of our coachings go wrong when they tell you to write too many pictures. We will come to it as to how you should prepare for it, but that will be the last part of my class. Let us now firstly start sequentially. The first thing is observation. Now you have to practice observation. The observation of a picture is in 2-3 layers. In the first layer is, what is the background? Is it rural background? Is it urban background? Is there cultivation behind? Is there a river behind? Is there a boat also in it? Or is it an urban setting? Or is it a traffic light? Is a plane flying? Now everything that is connected to the background gives you an idea about the setting of this particular picture. The next and most important thing, or another important thing, is the characters that are displayed there. Now, if in case you want to observe the characters, you will have to carefully observe their body language. Now, you will have to learn to observe body language. If the character is little bent, probably an old person, very straight, one foot in front, one arm up in the air, both hands crossed, legs wide open, legs very close, looking in a particular direction, 3 characters looking in same direction, One character looking in different direction, two characters looking in the same direction. One chap standing, two sitting, two standing, one sitting. Now all this actually, if you can observe correctly, you will get sufficient ideas. So you have to practice learning, you have to practice this observation, and that will lead to analysis. Because once you have observed appropriately, then your character will actually be able to analyze the situation. You will be able to analyze as to what kind of a story is coming to your mind. Your processor actually has to be trained. Your first reaction, 4 minutes, have actually been given only so that you cannot by any means change your thoughts. So your first reactions are the ones that the psychologists are looking for. A small word about why 4 minutes. Why not 6? Why not 5? A round figure. Why not 10? Now all this is by a big sample model, and it shows that the minute the time period is to a reasonable extent, you will find the candidates coming out with their actual thought process. In the first picture, you may be a little fresh, but as you start progressing towards second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th, you are done with your ideas. And now, in every picture after first, you may be actually giving out your first reaction and the original thought process. And that is what you cannot hide. If it was so easy to hide, if only story writing in the coaching institutes could have helped you, then probably this test would have lost its value as a personality test. So, observe very correctly. Now, should there be a problem in every situation? No. It can be a reactionary one. It can be a revisionary one. But then, should not be there an action by the hero? There should be. If you are trained or you have a habit of, and you are having this personality trait of correct observation, correct analysis of the situation, sahi logic and reasoning, a good planning, good organizing, good decision making, and being proactive, and you actually monitor and take feedback also. If you are doing these things on a regular basis, you will realize your characters will automatically start doing that. You will not have to start thinking, is it negative? Is it positive? Am I wrong? Have I made this mistake? You just don't have to bother. The more you bother about being wrong, being correct, being positive, only showing this, only showing that, a problem has to be brought in, you are confusing yourself. If you are trying to fit in a football match, you are confusing not only yourself, but also the psychologist. Now, the more you confuse yourself, the more you get into knots, and the more you get into knots, the more difficult it becomes for psychologists to ascertain the good and positive qualities that you actually have. Therefore, for doing this, you must not get into knots. Get into habit of observing things correctly in day-to-day life. For example, if you are going and you see two people fighting, just observe the body language. Just think, whatever happened which would have led to this fight. If possible, go and find out the reason. If possible, go and help them get over the situation. When you actually become a problem solver in daily life, when you start practicing analysis, when you start practicing connecting your bookish knowledge of your subjects or general knowledge or current affairs to daily life, you will realize that you are actually getting ideas. If you are a book reader, if you are reading books, if you are a fiction reader, you are reading fiction. If you are listening to TED Talks or Josh Talks, if you are helping your friends, if you are a sportsman, if you are mixing around with people, if you are going and talking to teams, if you are making groups and doing combined studies and helping people, this is the way to train for TAT. If you are a good student, if you are a good son, if you are a good elder brother, you are a good younger brother, it will all show in TAT. If the TAT was so easy to crack without getting these things into your actual personality, let me assure you, DIPR is smart enough to have removed this test. If people can fake personalities, if people can fake personality traits and fool the system, I am sure this particular test would not have been there. So, I will revise once again what you should do for practicing TAT. First thing, understand what a story is. Read few stories, try to find out generalities, see introduction of character. Next, a situation. Next, actions by the characters, especially the hero, and a definite conclusion of the events. So once you have understood the story writing, past and present connected, either you can use the past or you can go into the future. The present is in front of you, you are right. You know how to write a story. Then, the next thing to practice is observation. Take few pictures, practice observation. Practice observation in your day-to-day life. When you sit in the class and something is happening, try to understand body languages. When you sit in the class and see a teacher saying something in a particular manner, understand the body language. When you go to life, streets, when you see people moving around and doing something or the other, understand the body languages. Sometimes you may even read about them. Right? Now, when you have practiced lots of observations, you can practice 20, 25 pictures and observation. Sit down as a group, discuss the observations, discuss the body language part of the observations. The minute you have done it for 15, 20 pictures, you are okay. Thereafter, you know the art of story writing. Now remember, with your handwriting, with your thoughts, how many sentences can you write that you can practice in 5 to 7 stories? So you would know that generally depicting the hero or explaining the characters, you must write a line or two. The situation, another line or two, maybe 2.5. And then the maximum part of the story, something by the hero, your character, your hero. And then a single line of conclusion. You don't have time for anything more than that. But please, for heaven's sake, don't put yourself under pressure by creating a time pressure under you. You should know कि मैं 7 से 8 लाइन 7 to 8 or 10 or 12 depending on your handwriting. You must know that this is the only limit that I can reach. So therefore, 1 or 2 lines for the first part, 1 or 2 lines for the second part, 4 or 5, 3 or 4 lines for the third part, and a line for the last one. This is what you have to write and practice. So 15 to 20 pictures observation as a group, 5 to 7 stories if you have been able to write and discuss, and then read a lot. Now read a lot of books, fictions. That will not only improve your language, it will also improve your creativity and imagination power. That will add to your experience. And you can actually connect and get a lot of plots and themes from this personal reading. Listen to good TED Talks, Josh Talks. If you got less time, 20 days for SSB, listen to a TED Talk every day. Not only listen, also analyze. If your mind starts analyzing, if you start getting into the nuts and bolts of how things are done, how success is achieved, how things are planned, how things are organized, how the analysis is done, how logics and reasoning play their part, how options are created, how decisions are taken, and how important it is not only to take a decision but to execute it. If you can learn this from TED Talks, Josh Talks, from your friends, teams, teachers, seniors, cousins, anybody in life, you are preparing for TAT, sir. People ask the question, where will we get ideas from? It is a perception test. You will get ideas only from your knowledge bank, experience bank, your reasonings, logics. What you can do, only that part will be done by your hero. What you cannot perceive, your hero will also not be able to perceive. If instead of 4 minutes, I had given you 4 hours or 4 days or 4 months, probably you would have been able to change your ideas. You may be able to say, ye acha nahi hai, ye acha nahi hai, and this is not the way I will go about it. But when I give you 4 minutes, I am tightening the screw. And very soon in first or second or third story, you will start showing your real self. You cannot hide. If you are not a good person, if you are not a good son, you are not a trusted friend, if you are not reliable, it will show. If you can think logically, if you can analyze, if you can communicate effectively, if you are a leader, if you have leadership qualities, you can mix in a group, it shows. If you can work out solutions, if you can follow the way things are planned, the options are created, actions are done, feedbacks are taken, amendments are done, it shows. Therefore, in TAT, if you want to prepare, the real training field is real life. If you can train yourself, you can read a lot, if you can get into lots of ideas, you can discuss some ideas with your friends, you can read lots of books, fictions, see pictures, see movies, right? See YouTube videos, see ideas, go for poetry. If you write poems, if you write stories, everything is giving you ideas. Read them, write them. If you can do all this, you are training yourself for TAT and the real life. And this actual training is not only for TAT. This actually is your training for personality. This is where you will go up the growth chain. You will grow as a human being and not only a successful and a good army officer. You will become a good banker or a good civil services officer, a big businessman, an entrepreneur, an innovator, in everybody. This is where you have to practice. And a word, the last word, about the team spirit that you have to inculcate. You have to move in the groups, play sports which are team games, football, hockey, volleyball, basketball. Go out, enjoy, organize picnics, organize them to perfection. Get this organizing activity into your habit. When you organize for games or when you organize for exam, organize yourself. Do a very well planned out study. It will not only reduce your efforts and increase your efficiency, but it will ensure that this particular thought process gets into your psyche. And this will actually help you become a better, satisfied human being, a respectable person in the society, and your family will be proud of you. So, we covered today the thematic perception test, which is the major part of your psychological test. Based on this, your personality mapping is done, and you are actually being assessed for all the qualities that you have in real life. Let me assure you once again, by doing number of tests, you can pass written, you can pass a paper of mathematics, physics, chemistry. But to get through in the personality test, you will have to actually improve your personality, become a good, trustworthy human being, a person who observes well, analyzes well, acts well, good teammate, reliable friend, good son. That's it.